Hello and welcome to Painting Panzers. My name is Christian and today I'm going to be taking a look at yet another Ionic paint set. Today's paint set is for those German tanks. So we're moving away from infantry just briefly. We will be back on that on the fourth set, which I'll tease later on in the week. But today we're going to be looking at that German late war tank, specifically a 15mm Jadgtiger from the team at Battlefront. So let's get stuck into this painting tutorial using the Ionic paint set. Previously, I've covered the British uniform set from Ionic, and I did that with the 20mm AB figure, and then I followed that up with the World War II German here set that covers Splinter, and I painted up a 28mm Warlord Games German paratrooper. Both sets are awesome and both sets have tutorials on my channel if you want to view them. Now you can find the set at Ammo's website. Go to Ionic sets, you scroll down to whatever paint set that you want. Obviously for this particular video we want the German armor set, so we're going to go ahead and click that one, and on there you'll be able to find a guide from Ruben, which I would highly recommend following if you know his work. So to start off with, we're going to be taking a look at the set. So this is the German tanks 1943 to 45 set, and as you can tell there's quite a few paints that are related to the German tank colour, so that sort of dark yellow with the greens and browns, and we're going to be having a look at how these go on the airbrush. So I'm going to get these paints out. You can see that there is 5 paints that are going to be used in this step, plus some thinners, again keeping it with the Ionic thinners. I'm going to be using the dark base coat, or the dark base color I should say, and I'm going to be adding some thinners, probably at about a 1:1 ratio. At this particular point I wasn't sure how much thinners to put in, how thick the paint would be, so you want to make it until the paint is nice and runny, and once you've got that right base color ready to go that's thinned down, you can apply that dark base color, just doing a very light coat over the top of the black primer. So you want some of that black primer just to seep through a little bit, because we're going to be using a few different yellow colors to get a really nice panel highlighted Jadgtiger. So overall that dark base color is awesome, and then now it's ready for that normal German yellow coat in just a minute. But as you can see, if you get the right thinners to paint ratio with the correct PSI, I'm using a 1 bar my PSI here, you can get really good flow control from your airbrush. Now we use the dark yellow in the set, and you can see I'm panel highlighting here, so I'm doing a very light coat over the actual model, and then I'm just focusing on each panel, so each of the hatches, and then in the middle of each panel. And now I'm just checking the control, how well does it flow, and yeah, it flows really good. So now I use the yellow and bone mixed at a 1:1 ratio, and it's going to give us a nice little panel highlight color. So I'm just focusing on the middle of the panels and on top of the hatches and such, and that's just going to make all of those panels look very nicely worn without having to do crazy modulation where you're spending a lot of time with cardboard and stuff. I really like this. It's rough, it's quick, it's easy, and it actually looks really, really good once done properly. Now I'm going to be using the brown in the set. I'm also going to be mixing it in with the yellow at a 1:1 ratio, just because I want to make it lighter. I do like a lighter color because it's going to get darker when we put a gloss varnish over it. And I'm just going with some sort of generic sort of squiggly line scheme, something that I just saw on the Google. And then I'm going to follow it up with a green pattern. So following the same, I use the olive green with the yellow, German yellow, at a 1:1 ratio, just to line that green nicely so it blends in really nicely with it, and just following the pattern but just breaking it up so it breaks away from the browns and stuff. I think it gives you a really nice looking camo scheme, a nice late war sort of 45 scheme, which obviously the Jadgtiger would have been it would have been applicable for. And then you should end up with something like this. I didn't paint the back engine bay area or the wheels in terms of with camo patterns, just kept it to the main areas that probably need a bit of camo. Now using the Hard Rock super durable glossy varnish from Ammo, I'm just applying that straight on from the airbrush. You must apply it as quickly as possible though, you don't want to leave it in the airbrush for too long. So I've given it a good couple of coats of this super gloss varnish, and now I'm using some of the Ionic cleaner for my airbrush. My airbrush is a very cheap airbrush as well. It's an Iwato Neo CN with a 0.35 needle in there, and this cleaner cleaned it up nicely. So now I've got the glossy vehicle. I've applied decals. I've got a separate decal video if you want to see that on how I apply decals specifically to Flames of War vehicles as well. But I'm going to be using a brown wash for German dark yellow vehicles, again from ammo, as well as some enamel odorless thinners. So I'm going to start off by using a really old brush. You can tell here that the brush is battered, it's bruised, it doesn't look good, but this is going to be perfect for doing a pin wash. So I'm going straight out of the bottle of that enamel wash that we just saw previously, and I'm using this old pointed brush to pin wash my vehicle. So what do I mean by that? I'm using the pin or the really sharp point of that brush just to wash what I want washed. I'm not going to be covering the entire vehicle in the wash because it involves a lot of cleanup, and leaving it like that. Once you're happy with it, just leave it for a good hour or so, and then come along with some enamel odorless thinners on a cotton bud and just wipe away all the excess paint. And you can see there that that excess paint just starts to come away really nicely, but I'm not putting too much pressure on there because that pin wash is going in all the recesses that I want it to, and there's not been too much overflow where I need to clean it up heavily. So with that done, I'm going to be using black plus bone at a 1:1 ratio to give me a nice dark grey colour, and that's what I'm going to be using to paint all the metal items and the towing cables and such. And there's quite a few towing cables and nice details on this Flames of War Jadgtiger. So yeah, make sure you get in the right ratio. And then I'm using a black brown for the exhausts. Again, a really good colour actually. This black brown has got a bit of a red tinge to it, so it makes them look quite rusty already. Yeah, really nice actually. And then for the wood, I'm going to be using brown. And you can see it's a nice brown colour. It looks like a new wood sort of brown colour, and it works perfectly. Now for the tracks, I'm going to be painting them in black. If you followed my channel before, you know that I tend to paint my tracks in black. But bear with me, we'll fix them up nicely so they won't be super black at the end of the video. Now just using a nice brush here just to make sure you're getting all the teeth of the tracks there without getting it on the actual wheels themselves. Now just use a generic black wash. It can be acrylic or enamel, whatever you want to use. I'm using an acrylic black wash here, and I'm just washing everything that we've just painted. So the towing cables, the machine gun, the bits of equipment, and whatever else, the exhaust and stuff. Not obviously the actual vehicle itself, just those areas that we literally just painted before. And then with those dry, I'm going to be using black and bone again at that 1:1 ratio, and I'm literally just going over what I've done, but I'm just skimming across the top because it's just a cable. And then once I've done that, I follow the exact same principle with black metal. So we're using a metallic color here, and I'm just doing a very light coat over the top to give it a bit of a shine. But again, not going too crazy here. It might look it, but there's very little paint on the tip of that brush. So it's just skimming the top of the surface there. And with that dry, we can move on to the wooden area. So I'm going over those wooden handles and such on the axe and the shovel with brown again. And then I use brown and light rust at a 1:1 ratio just to really make those wooden bits of equipment pop. And with that done, I get black, brown and rust, mix it at a 1:1 ratio, and use an old brush and just dry brush it onto the exhaust there, and that's going to give you a really nice rusty looking exhaust. And I use that German yellow just for the little scopes coming out of the top of the vehicle there, just to make them stand out a little bit more. And with that done, I'm going to use Graveyard Earth with a really old brush, and I'm going to dry brush, or you can use a dry brush. I'm actually using a dry brush here. And I'm just going to dry brush quite heavily those tracks, They're going to give you a nice dry, muddy looking track, and you can apply some of this to the actual vehicle as well, where the tracks would be nearest, as if the dust and stuff's kicked up. Now using that black brown, get a bit of foam and rip it off so it's all a bit uneven. Dab it in the paint, get rid of the excess, and then just dab along the areas that you think would get the most amount of wear. So you can see here the sides here would obviously be going across bushes and such, around the engine bay and the top where the crew would be getting in and out of. And once you've done that, you can apply some brown dry brushed over the vehicle, again nearest to the tracks, so it's just a nice dusty residue coming up. So I'm going quite heavy, but you can see that I'm not going anywhere else on the actual vehicle itself. Now I also received some streaking pens as well as pigments, but I thought for today's video I'm not going to cover those because I really wanted to keep it just for the paint set. But we will look at those in a future video, that's for sure. So overall, this paint set is great. I'm absolutely loving how this Jadgtiger has come out. I think the colors are perfect. We had a really nice panel highlighted Jadgtiger before I applied the wash and all the camo and such, where it's sort of hidden now, but yeah, it looked really good. These Ionic sets are just getting better and better. I love the way that they're easily applied. Even with the airbrush, I didn't have any problems like I have with other companies. So yeah, massive thumbs up from me for this. I know it's again, and probably another paint set that people are a bit hesitant to use because you don't want to, you know, keep swapping and changing. But I would really recommend giving them a go if you want to, or if you're in the mood for something a little bit different. I think they'll add a really nice change to what you've got. So thanks again to the team at Ammo for sending me these paint sets. We've got another one lined up, so there is a fourth video to come using these paint sets, so keep an eye out for that one. I will tease it very soon as well. Now I must say a huge thank you to my Patreons and YouTube channel members, specifically those Panzer Races. So that's Patrick, Oscar, James, Panzer Jim, Colin, Lack of Foresight Gaming, Mike, Mikey, Eric, Rothgar, Jonathan, Ian and Adam. You guys are all absolute champions. Thank you so much for being those aces. It really means a lot. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it here. Please do leave me a comment in the comment section if you're going to be picking up one of these sets, or just to let me know how you found the video. But until then, I will catch you at the next one.